wherever you're at in life, if you're, starting ahead and you got a silver spoon, honestly, good for you. It's no fault of your own, and it's no fault of your own if you don't have that silver spoon. We don't choose what we're born into. Nobody is. And so I don't really hold it against anybody for where their starting position was. Some people have a better set of cards and some people have a worse set of cards, but it's how you play those cards, where if you have a great hand, you can squander it. And if you have a crap hand, you can absolutely clean up with it, right? It's how you play your cards. The mindset that comes with it. If you have a elitist or defeatist on the other end mindset, you're not going to make it very far. How can you shift your mindset and use whatever cards you have been dealt to your advantage? Because there is an advantage in every single one of those different hands to get to where you want to go. But it's just how hungry are you to get there? How many times are you willing to step up and get knocked down and get back up again to really get there? Will determine whether or not you're successful. I've oftentimes got asked, if there was any, point in time, in my life or childhood that really shifted my mindset or made me want, I guess, a little more for myself or choose, a path that I've, chosen. It's a story I wasn't really comfortable telling for a long time, but back when I was probably 8, 9 years old, I was growing up, and times were pretty tough. Growing up, I was always sad and jealous or envious of the other kids in school who would get to go on vacation. You'd see, girls go to Mexico, they come back with their hair braided and all the beads and tan and go in cool places like Florida and whatnot. And I was, I couldn't do that. Right. I would never went on vacation. Growing up in Minneapolis, the only vacation we could go on was to a place called Lake Breeze. It's in Duluth, Minnesota. It's 3 hours north of Minneapolis. But that was our getaway, right? It wasn't anything crazy. It was a small motel, but it was on Lake Superior. It had great views. It had a yard. It had a swimming pool and foosball. And that place was just heaven on earth, for me being like a young kid. Like that was our vacation. That was my Super Bowl growing up. We would pay for it literally with a piggy bank. And I remember, we had this, it was a shoebox that we cut a hole in the middle, and it was duct taped, and it was a Lake Breeze box. And everybody in the family would put money into the Lake Breeze box. And I remember, I would pick up quarters or change on the ground, or if I got an allowance, I'd give some of my check or some of my allowance in there, just whatever I could do to contribute, because Lake Breeze was like, it for me. Like that was the Super Bowl. I remember one day I was home, my sister was babysitting me, and I went to, go put some money into Lake Breeze box, and I couldn't find it. Normally it was in the kitchen on the counter, and I'm like, that's weird. And I'm looking around trying to find it, can't find it. Go into my parents' room in the closet, and I found it in there, just ripped open and empty. I was absolutely devastated. And I was like, oh my God, somebody stole all the money. Like, what is going on? Like, we're not going to Lake Breeze. I'm like visibly angry, crying, upset. And eventually my parents got home, and I remember this like it was yesterday. My house growing up was like a split level. So you walk into the entryway, you kind of go up or down. And I was standing on top of the stairs holding the ripped open Lake Breeze box as if I had just, like I'm scolding my parents. Like as if I had just caught them doing, like I just caught them with drugs or something. I just caught them doing something they shouldn't have been doing. I'm like holding this, like, explain yourself. And I'm just angry. I'm visibly upset. And at the landing, at the entrance of our house, are my parents holding groceries. They had taken our Lake Breeze money and gone grocery shopping. And here I am just like kind of oblivious to what the sacrifice my parents had to make. And it wasn't an easy decision. And they come up and they're trying to console me, and I'm hearing them, but I'm not listening. Like I don't understand the trade-off of what was at stake and why they had to make the decision they had to make. I remember, as I was thinking back on this question, as I started getting asked more, I was like, man, like what pain I must have caused my parents. They had, against their own will and against their own, they wish they could have done something else. But at that moment in time, they had to choose, Lake Breeze or groceries that day. And they had to put food on the table. the obvious the obvious correct answer. And here I am at 8, 9 years old, not only not understanding it, but I'm visibly angry at the decision they made. And it just probably just ripped their heart out. I'm so thankful for them for, persevering and doing what was right and giving me a great childhood, despite some of the headwinds that we had. I just hope, and I'm just thankful that I had that experience where I've tasted that, and I never want to have that conversation that my parents had with us of choosing food over the lake breeze. And so when it comes to like looking at, that story, like I don't feel sorry for myself. Like going back to the poker analogy, I had worse cards, so to say, than maybe another kid. Sure. But I would even beg to disagree with that. I am so thankful that I had that opportunity to learn, the opportunity to go through some tougher times, because that's, once again, like no matter what cards you're dealt, you can either use it as an excuse or you can use it as leverage, and you can use it as motivation, and you can use it as reason and an origin story to get to where you want to go. And it's how you play your cards. I don't think I'm sitting here today. I don't think I'm in maybe the driver's seat of my life. I don't think I'm doing whatever it is I want to be doing without those experiences. We're all a product of our experiences, and it's whether or not you choose to control them or if you choose to let them control you is what will dictate whether you get to where you want to go or not. It showed me what it's like or what's possible. And one thing, my dad always told me is like, because my dad was a master electrician for 35 years, due to, injuries from work, he ended up getting forced into retirement. And because of that, he would tell me, he's like, use your mind for money, let your money work for you. All of that's what showed me. It's like, okay, how do I put my money to work for me? And it wasn't until I started stepping up to the plate and taking swings and missing, and I really learned what it meant to put your money to work for you, because your money will outwork you hand over fist. It'll outwork you while you're living. It'll outwork you till after you've passed away. But if you only will trade time for money, you have a finite amount of earning capacity and time you can be earning on that time. But when you turn the tables and you put your money to work, that's when they say the sky's the limit and the time is unlimited. It's because how well can you put your money to work for you? Can you really change the trajectory of your life and your family's life?